Kaya looked into her mother's eyes, who was trying to hide the pain that seemed like a heavy burden. Though Kaya was young, she was clever enough to understand her mother, even if she was quiet. She nodded solemnly, grasping the gravity of her mother's request. "I promise, Mommy. I won't tell anyone that James is my dad. I'll keep it a secret just like you asked. And I can't live without you. If he separates us, I'll hate him too." Olga smiled, relieved by Kaya's understanding. "Thank you, sweetheart. That means a lot to me. But I'm not asking you to hate him, baby. Hating someone is bad. Just keep our little secret. And from now on, you will call Uncle Frank Daddy. And remember, no secrets between us." With a heavy but determined heart, Olga knew that keeping James's identity a secret was crucial for Kaya's safety and well-being. She knew James had a wife from a powerful family, and she didn't want to create unnecessary enemies. Kaya nodded again, her small face set with determination. "I won't tell anyone, Mommy. Uncle Frank will be my daddy from now on." She understood the weight of her mother's words, realizing that her silence was a shield to protect them both. With Kaya's promise made, Olga felt a sense of relief wash over her. She hugged Kaya tightly, whispering words of love and reassurance. "Thank you, sweetheart. You're such a brave and wonderful girl. Remember, no matter what happens, Mommy will always be here for you." Kaya nodded, her small arms wrapped around Olga's neck. "I know, Mommy. I'll always be here for you too." Maggie watched the exchange between mother and daughter, her heart swelling with admiration for Olga's strength and love. She knew that their journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but she was determined to stand by them every step of the way. With a reassuring smile, Maggie joined them, wrapping her arms around Olga and Kaya in a warm embrace. "Olga, you have raised her well. You have done very great work. You will always have me, guys. No matter what comes our way, we'll face it as a family." Olga smiled gratefully at Maggie's words, feeling a surge of warmth and gratitude for her support. "Thank you, Maggie. Having you with us means more than words can express. We're so lucky to have you." Kaya beamed up at Maggie, her eyes shining with affection. "Yeah, Auntie Maggie, you're the best. I love having you here with us. You'll teach me to sing and take me on the stage. I want to be an artist too." Maggie's heart swelled with love for the mother and daughter before her. "And I love being here with you too. Now let's make today an amazing day, filled with love and laughter. And I, the best aunt in the world, will make sure you get what you want in life." Olga chuckled, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders as she soaked in the warmth of their bond. "That sounds like a plan. Doesn't it, Kaya? With Auntie Maggie by our side, there's nothing we can't do." Kaya nodded enthusiastically, her eyes bright with excitement. "Yes, Mommy. Today will be the best day ever." Her innocence and optimism were like a beacon of hope in their lives. With their plans set, they quickly finished their breakfast and got ready for the day ahead. As they made their way to the school, Kaya skipped along beside them, her hand tightly clasped in Olga's. The anticipation of starting school was written all over her face, and Olga couldn't help but feel a twinge of nervousness mixed with pride. "I can't believe my little cutie pie is about to start school." Arriving at the school, they were greeted by friendly staff who guided them through the registration process. Maggie stayed close, offering encouraging words and a reassuring presence. The scene at the school was one of warmth and welcome as they navigated the registration process. Maggie, a steadfast companion, provided support with her encouraging words and comforting presence. Everyone was happy to see the famous singer at their school. Little did they know, however, that amidst the friendly atmosphere, someone covertly captured their images. It was the private investigator that James had hired. At James's villa, he was done getting ready for a new day. His thoughts were consumed by Olga. All he wanted was to see Olga again. He missed her so much, yet he knew he had to pretend to have forgiven his wife. He understood the necessity of maintaining appearances with his wife. "Once I reclaim what's rightfully mine, I will divorce Jocelyn and make you mine again. Orga, he vowed silently. Descending the stairs, prepared to face the day, James was surprised to find Jocelyn already seated at the dining table, awaiting him for breakfast. Her demeanor was markedly different, exuding a newfound respect she hadn't shown before. It was evident she was striving to earn James's forgiveness for her past transgressions. What Jocelyn and her family did to him was unforgivable. The little love and respect he had for Jocelyn and her family had turned into hate. But he had to play that he had forgiven her for a short time while he made his moves to take control again. Once his plans are in place, they will see the other side of James Hawkins that they have never seen before. Good morning, James. Jocelyn greeted him, her tone soft and conciliatory. I hope you slept well. I've prepared your favorite breakfast. James nodded curtly, taking a seat opposite her at the table. Thank you, Jocelyn. He then continued eating without caring about Jocelyn. Jocelyn watched him closely, her eyes betraying a hint of uncertainty beneath her composed facade. She knew that James was still distant, harboring resentment towards her and her family. But she was determined to win back his trust and restore their fractured relationship. James, I've been thinking, Jocelyn began tentatively, her fingers fidgeting with the edge of her napkin. Perhaps we could take a trip together, just the two of us. It might help us reconnect and put the past behind us. James raised an eyebrow, studying her carefully. The suggestion took him by surprise. He hadn't expected Jocelyn to be so forward in her attempts to reconcile. Yet beneath her proposal, he sensed a hidden agenda, a desperation to salvage what remained of their marriage. A trip? James echoed, feigning interest. Where did you have in mind? Jocelyn smiled, relieved by his response. Anywhere you'd like, James. I just want us to have some time alone, away from the distractions of our everyday lives. James considered her offer for a moment, weighing the potential benefits against the risks. On one hand, a trip with Jocelyn could provide him with an opportunity to gather information, assess her intentions, and perhaps uncover any weaknesses he could exploit. On the other hand, it would mean spending more time in her company, navigating the delicate balance between deception and cooperation. Finally, he nodded, conceding to her suggestion. Very well, Jocelyn. Let's plan a trip. Just the two of us. But remember, this doesn't erase the past. We still have much to discuss. Jocelyn's smile faltered slightly, a flicker of doubt crossing her features. But she quickly masked it with determination, determined to make their trip a success. Of course, James. I understand. We'll take things one step at a time. James and Jocelyn started eating. Everyone was lost in their thoughts. While Jocelyn appeared eager to reconcile with James, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her intentions than met the eye. Right at that moment, James received a call from the private investigator that he had hired to find information about Orga. James picked it up with the hope of receiving good news. Morning, Detective Reynolds. Do you have something for me? Good morning, Mr. James. Detective Reynolds replied on the other end of the line. Yes, I have some updates regarding Orga. Are you at the office? Actually, I'm at home, James responded, his interest piqued. But I will be at the office soon. Let's meet there in an hour. As James hung up the phone, he felt a surge of anticipation. He quickly finished his breakfast and excused himself from the table, citing an urgent meeting at the office. Jocelyn nodded understandingly, though a flicker of disappointment crossed her features. Rushing to his office, James couldn't shake the feeling of excitement mixed with apprehension. Detective Reynolds was waiting for him when he arrived, a file in hand. Good morning, Mr. James. Reynolds greeted him respectfully. I've gathered some information regarding Orga's whereabouts in the last 5 years. It seems like the person who helped her hide and be untraceable all those years is someone powerful in the government. His name is Frank Miller, and he is a minister. I haven't connected his relationship with Miss Orga Thompson yet, So I wanted to update you on this. Furthermore, Olga is enrolling her daughter in school. There are pictures and everything. He handed the file to James. James's heart raced as he absorbed the information. Frank Miller's involvement added a new layer of complexity to the situation. "Thank you, Detective Reynolds," James said, his voice tight with controlled anger. "This is valuable information. Keep digging, and let me know if you find anything else." As Detective Reynolds nodded and left the office, James sank into his chair, his mind swirling with thoughts. He couldn't let Olga slip through his fingers again. Although he had hurt her before, he wanted to amend his mistakes. She had eluded him for too long, and now that he was closer than ever to finding her, he wouldn't let anyone stand in his way of winning her again. James opened the file and flipped through the pictures of Olga and her daughter. Seeing them stirred up a mix of emotions within him. Longing, regret, but also determination. She really looks like me. She's definitely my daughter. He couldn't deny the fact that he still cared deeply for Olga, despite everything that had transpired between them. As he stared at the images, a plan began to form in his mind. He needed to approach this situation carefully, especially with Frank Miller involved. James knew that Frank wasn't an easy target, and he knew that confronting Olga directly would only push her further away, not with Miller potentially pulling strings behind the scenes. He needed a different approach, one that would allow him to get closer to Olga without raising any suspicions. After some careful consideration, James decided to use an indirect approach. He would leverage his connections to get involved with the school where Olga had enrolled Kaya. It would allow him to reach Olga without problems. He made arrangements to sponsor the school where Kaya was registered. "I can't wait to see my child and hold her. How did I end up in this mess? I would be living with my daughter if it were not for those bastards." James couldn't shake off the feeling of guilt that gnawed at him. He knew that he had hurt Olga deeply in the past, and he was determined to make amends. But he also knew that it wouldn't be easy. Meanwhile, Olga and Maggie were still in the registration process. As she completed the registration process, Olga couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment mixed with apprehension. Sending Kaya to school marked a new chapter in their lives, one filled with both excitement and uncertainty. But seeing the smile on Kaya's face as she interacted with other children filled Olga's heart with joy and reassurance. After ensuring Kaya was settled in her classroom, Olga, accompanied by Maggie, made their way to the school office to finalize some paperwork. As they entered the office, they were greeted by the school principal, Mrs. Thomas, a friendly and welcoming woman with a warm smile. "Olga Thompson, what a pleasure to have you here," Mrs. Thomas exclaimed, extending her hand in greeting. "And you must be Maggie, Kaya's aunt. It's an honor to meet you both. Mr. Nick told me about your coming. He's a great family friend." Olga returned the principal's handshake with a smile. "Thank you, Mrs. Thomas. We're thrilled to be here. Kaya is really looking forward to starting school, and without Nick's involvement, I wouldn't be here." Maggie nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, we are. We've heard wonderful things about this school, and we're excited to be a part of the community." Mrs. Thomas beamed at their enthusiasm. "We're delighted to have Kaya join us. She seems like such a bright and cheerful young girl. I'm sure she'll thrive here. And Maggie, I am a great fan of your songs. Maybe one day you might join us and give our young ones some advice." Olga's heart swelled with pride at Mrs. Thomas's words. She had always hoped that Kaya would find a place where she could flourish, and it seemed like this school could provide just that. "Thank you, Mrs. Thomas," Olga said sincerely. "We're grateful for the opportunity for Kaya to be a part of such a supportive community. And Maggie, I second that. The kids would absolutely love to hear your music." Maggie chuckled modestly, her cheeks tinted pink with embarrassment. "Well, if you insist, I'd be happy to come by sometime." As they discussed the logistics of Kaya's enrollment and familiarized themselves with the school's policies, Olga couldn't shake the feeling of gratitude for the support they had received. From Kaya's bravery to Maggie's unwavering companionship, they were surrounded by love and positivity. Olga glanced at Maggie, silently communicating her intentions. Maggie, I want to add you to the pickup list, just in case neither I nor her father are able to come. Maggie nodded in understanding, her expression reflecting the bond of trust between them. Mrs. Thomas, if it's not too much trouble, could we add Maggie to the pickup list as well? Olga asked politely, just as a precaution, in case either Kaya's father or I am unable to come. Mrs. Thomas smiled warmly, jotting down a note on the paperwork in front of her. Of course, Olga. It's always good to have backup arrangements. Maggie, may I have your full name, please? Maggie O'Connor, she replied, offering a friendly smile. And thank you for accommodating us. It's my pleasure, Maggie, Mrs. Thomas said, writing down the name. Consider it done. Kaya's safety is our priority, and having trusted individuals on the pickup list ensures that she's always in good hands. Olga breathed a sigh of relief, grateful for Mrs. Thomas's understanding. With Maggie added to the pickup list, she felt reassured knowing that Kaya would be taken care of no matter the circumstances. After completing the necessary paperwork, Mrs. Thomas escorted them back to Kaya's classroom to check in on her. When they entered the classroom, they found Kaya engaged in a lively conversation with her classmates. Seeing her daughter so happy filled Olga with a sense of relief, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Kaya, upon seeing her mother, exclaimed, "Mommy! Auntie Maggie!" rushing over to greet them. I made a new friend. Her name is Lily, and we're going to sit together at lunch. Olga couldn't help but smile at Kaya's enthusiasm. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Making new friends is one of the best parts of school. Maggie ruffled Kaya's hair affectionately. I'm glad to hear that, darling. Just remember to be kind and considerate to everyone, okay? Kaya nodded eagerly. I will, Auntie Maggie. I promise. With Kaya settled and happy in her new environment, Olga felt a sense of relief wash over her. As they prepared to leave the school and bid farewell to Mrs. Thomas, she couldn't help but feel optimistic about the future. Kaya settled into school and was surrounded by supportive individuals. Olga knew that they were embarking on a new chapter filled with endless possibilities. Walking out of the school building hand in hand with Kaya and Maggie, Olga couldn't suppress the smile that spread across her face. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together as a family, united in love and determination.